So, Ve'elat Hashem, a little bit of Divrei Chizuk. In this week's Parachat Kedoshim, it's a different type of Parasha. It's the Torah, but it's a different type of Parasha. Usually we are used in a Parasha, there is an episode, there's a story, there's something happened, all kind. Over here, it's a lot of mitzvot. It's a short Parasha with a lot of mitzvot, which apparently have no connection. Lo takifu pe'az kanchem, you shouldn't cut your beard with a blade, right? Shabbatotai tishmoru, keep Shabbat. Nevela v'trefa, don't eat not kosher. It's a lot of mitzvot, right? And this is Kedoshim, the Torah wants us to sanctify. I want to speak about one mitzvah in this week's parasha, a mitzvah that repeats itself a few times over here in this week's parasha. It says, Ish imo ve'aviv tirau, you should fear your mother and your father. ואת שבתותיי תשמעו. But you have to keep Shabbat.
אבל אפשר להגיד גם, סליחה כבוד הרב, שזה גם גדרות, זה לא רק מצוות, זה גם גדרות.
For sure, there's a lot. For sure, the Torah puts barriers, right? But it's b'geder mitzvah. Whatever you do now is a mitzvah. Mitzvah ta'aseh, mitzvah lo ta'aseh, right? But it's a mitzvah. So the Gemara speaks about respecting parents and keeping Shabbat. The Gemara says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu overcomes the parents, which means that if your father tells you to do an Avera Shabbat, right? You have to tell him that Shabbat is first. He's going to tell no, but it says Kabed et avicha veit imecha, right? Kabed avicha veimecha. So he tells you Shabbatotai tirau. You're supposed to fear your father and mother. You're supposed to respect your parents. But Shabbatotai tishmor. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells you, even your father chayav bikvodi. Even your mother chayavet bikvodi. They're obligated also to listen to me. So when it comes to a conflict, keeping Shabbat and listening to your parents, you have to keep Shabbat, right? And it's interesting, if you look at Aseret HaDibrot, the fourth dibra is Zachor et Yom HaShabbat lekadesho. The fifth one is Kabed Avicha Mecha. So Shabbat lekadesho came before Kabed et Avicha ve'et Imecha, right? Now we have to understand, the Kedusha of the Shabbat, it's a special Kedusha. Why it's a special Kedusha? Because when it comes to the holidays, and a holiday fall on Shabbat. And when we say the Amidah, what do we say? Baruch Ata Hashem, Mekadesh HaShabbat, V'Yisrael, V'Azemanim. And the Gemara wants to know, why do we go in this order? So the Gemara is explaining us, Kedushat HaShabbat ba'a ve'omedet misheshet yemei Bereshit. You don't have to sanctify the Shabbat. Shabbat comes already from Sheshet yemei Bereshit. It comes every week by itself. If you want it or not, it comes. The holiday, Am Yisrael is mekadesh the holiday. Am Yisrael is deciding when is the holiday going to be. So that's why I say mekadesh Shabbat, which is omedet kvar kedushatam mishesh yemei bereshit. It's already from the 6 days of creation. Then you have Israel, kedushat Israel, because they are going to sanctify the holiday. So then ve'azemanim, right? So we see the Shabbat as a special kedusha, which is mishesh yemei bereshit, from the 6th day of the creation, right? But for sure, we are adding into this Kedusha. The Kedusha of Shabbat is very big, but each one is going to sanctify the Shabbat on his level. That's why it's very important, right? It's very important to honor the Shabbat, to respect the Shabbat, to mekadesh et Shabbat. The bracha in the Amidah, what do we say 3 times in Shabbat? Baruch Ata Hashem mekadesh Shabbat. But the Kadesh Shabbat, each one of us is going to be on a different level. And why is that? According to what you invest in the Shabbat. For example, the Be'er Etev, in one of the halachot of Shabbat, he brings down that Ma'aseh, you should know, in Shulchan Aruch, there's not a lot of Ma'asim. And if they bring a Ma'aseh, if they bring a story, is to tell us Musar, right? On the level of halacha. So the Be'er Etev brings down, there was a story of 2 friends, one passed away, and the one who passed away came in a dream of his friend, and he had a green color. He was all green. So his friend told him, Lama tayarok? Why do you look green? He says, Ba'olam haba, in the next world, they punished him. He says, Ma sita, you were tzaddik. I remember you used to put tefillin every morning, you used to keep Shabbat, you used to be kosher. Why, lama? He says, no. This man, on Friday, after he used to come a little bit late from work, and he used to come to Bet HaKnesset in Bigdei Chol, with the clothes of the weekday. And you say, oh, Shabbat morning, I'm going to change my clothes, going to put my suit of Shabbat. So they told him, B'Shamayim, but Shabbat doesn't start Shabbat morning, Shabbat starts Friday night. He didn't honor the Shabbat. As Nishuto, he looks green. Ba'olam haba. Okay? To tell you, מה המוסר מזה? Some people, we see that. Some people, they come with the work clothes, right? The jeans and everything. He takes a shower in the morning. He's getting nicely dressed to work. And he comes back to home. And he comes to Bet HaKnesset. No. Shabbat, you're supposed to have different clothes, right? Shabbat, you're supposed to look different. The Midrash says in Bereshit, the Midrash says, panim chadashot. That's why, halacha, on the level of halacha, when you have a newlywed couple, right? Every day of Shabbat Brachot, you need panim chadashot. You need two people that didn't participate at the wedding. When it comes to Shabbat, Friday night and Shabbat in the morning, you don't need panim chadashot. You don't need. Why? Panim chadashot, said the Midrash, panim chadashot ba'u lekan. On Shabbat, Hashem gives you like panim chadashot. Right? So you don't need panim chadashot. Then it comes to Suda Shlishi, it's a machloket Shulchan Aruch in the Rama. The Shulchan Aruch says on Shabbat, Mincha, Suda Shlishi, you do need panim chadashot, and the Rama says no, it's continuing the Shabbat, so you don't need still panim chadashot. Okay? But to tell you, mamash, panim chadashot is like something new, and that's everything the Kedushah of Am Yisrael. The Kedushah of Am Yisrael makes it, right, that Shabbat is on a different level, right? The Gemara is telling us a lot of things. Am haaretz lo meshaker b'Shabbat. Lo meshaker b'Shabbat. If you ask a question, Am haaretz, when it's Shabbat, there's a certain fear of Shabbat, lo meshaker, right? There is a river, right? I think next to Syria or somewhere like this, called Sambatyon. Sambatyon, the water stops flowing on Shabbat. Ken? Huh? Besin, Sambatyon. The water stops flowing on Shabbat. Nisim, Shabbat, Ov, Ba'alat Ov doesn't work on Shabbat. Means all kinds of kshafim. Doesn't work Shabbat. Wow. Shabbat doesn't work. The people that do medium, science, all those kshafim, on Shabbat, they cannot bring down the shamot. On Shabbat, their sorcery doesn't work. Why? Shabbat. Even Bashamayim, it is on Shabbat. Rabbi Nishchai, in Parachat Beshalach, he has an interesting question. He's asking, in Eretz Israel, Shabbat starts 6 hours before America, or 7 hours before America, right? Bashamayim, the Malachim, which Shabbat they do? Bashamayim also does Shabbat. The Malachim also do Shabbat, right? And Hashem also does Shabbat. But which Shabbat? Does he do the Shabbat of Eretz Israel? Or does he do the Shabbat of America? Or China? Or Australia, which is 24 hours later? Which Shabbat do they do, right? Says the Rabbi Nishchai, he says that you should know, Be'emet, Ikar HaShabbat ze Eretz Israel. The main Shabbat is according to the clock and the time of Eretz Israel. Just. Because we do Shabbat in America 6 or 7 hours later, in Australia 24 hours later, Bashamayim, they respect also the Shabbat. They would respect the same Shabbat all over the world in all the time zones, in all the hours. But the main Shabbat, Bashamayim, what's the main Shabbat? Mata matchil Shabbat? Eretz Israel. This is when Shabbat starts, Bashamayim, right? That's kacha the Rabbi Nishchai brings it down. Aderet Eliyahu, Parashat Beshalach, he says Shabbat is Eretz Israel. So there's a second Shabbat. That's why also again, those questions always halacha.
Why we don't start 7 hours earlier?
Yeah, because we have to always because always we have to.
Shabbat will start now and we'll end up tomorrow.
So you're right. So why don't we start Shabbat? So in halacha there was a question like this: Legabe slichot. Legabe slichot, we know we cannot say 13 midot, right? Hashem, Kel Rachum Mechanun, right? We cannot say it at night. Some poskim wanted to say, 1 second. You know what? We could be able to say it at night. You know why? Because if the main time zone in Bashamayim is Israel, Eretz Israel, right? So in Israel already, when over here it's going to be 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. In Israel it's already after Chatzot. It's already 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And over there they can say Slichot. So Ravadia wrote Beferush in Yalkut Yosef, in a thing, he wrote that you can't do that. You have to follow where you are, your time zone. The same thing when you fly. When you go in an airplane, right? When you go in an airplane, when do you put tefillin? You're going to put tefillin according to the time zone. So whenever you're going to be in the air and you're going to see the sun coming up, you're going to put tefillin. So you don't base yourself, you came from America, right? In the middle, you go in the middle, it's night, right? You leave at night and you cannot say, it's already daytime in Israel. No. Whatever you are, the time zone you are, that's what you have to respect. So we always respect the time zone where we are, right? Just to tell you, Bashamayim, in heavens, they take in consideration most and more the time of Eretz Israel. Okay? But Shabbat is Shabbat. Everywhere we have to respect the Shabbat. So again, we cannot disrespect Shabbat. We cannot dishonor Shabbat, and we cannot listen to anybody, even aviv ve'imo. Even you have to fear your parents, and they're telling you not to keep Shabbat or to do something on Shabbat. You have to
listen.
listen.
גם לגבי שבת, רק לגבי שבת כתוב מות יומת, מחללי המות יומת.
Yeah, מחללי המות יומת.
בכיפור לא ראיתי כתוב דבר כזה.
Kippur is karet.
כרת, אבל זה...
Shabbat, that's why. Between Shabbat and Kippur, Shabbat is more important.
מה זה במות יומת?
Mot Yumat means בעולם הזה, he gets punished by the bed din. Kippur is karet. That's why they say karet is min hashamayim, right? The person dies, but they don't kill him in bed din, right? So between Shabbat and Kippur, the Mishnah says Shabbat is more chamor because there's skila. Edim ve'atra'ah is chayav skila, right? Tov. So we see the importance of Shabbat. So therefore, the Baalei Musar, they tell us the following thing. We have to mekadesh the Shabbat. מה זה לקדש the Shabbat? You have to make it, the sviva, all around you, you should feel the Shabbat. How do you do this? So we start in saying, the close of Shabbat should not be the close of weekdays, right? It's true, it's no obligation. For example, Rav Yosef had a question, you must have shoes lichvot Shabbat. He says, no, en chiyuv, just polish them. If you polish them, it's good, okay? But if you want to feel the Shabbat, everything should be different. We don't speak the same thing on Shabbat. We don't say, Shalom Aleichem. We say, Shabbat Shalom. We don't call our bread, we don't call it lechem. We call it challah, right? We don't dress the same thing. So everything on Shabbat, the tefillah is not the same tefillah, right? Everything in Shabbat is different. Everything in Shabbat is different. The more you make Shabbat different, the more your surrounding becomes more kadosh, right? Kedoshim-The, the kedusha is to sanctify. So that's why the Shabbat.
Why shoes was specifically different than the other?
Because shoes, it says, just by polishing them, they look nice and clean. So there's no chiyuv.
If you just wash them and you take it to the cleaners, it's also going to look nice.
Enachanami.
No, but that's in case you don't have.
Yeah, exactly. This in case you don't have. Exactly. If you don't have, you don't have. Right? It's not like the Tur asked his father, the Rosh, Baal HaTurim, Rabbi Yaakov Baal HaTurim asked his father, Rosh, ma'u le'echol dagim ktanim b'Shabbat. Could he eat sardines on Shabbat? Why? Because at the time of the Tur, like almost 1,000 years ago, eating sardines was like ma'achal aniyim. It's only poor people. Today, sardines, it's like ma'adan. It's like the delicatessen, right? Small fish, fried. In the Tur time, if you eat sardines, ani. Who would eat? In the Gemara, it's called kasa de arsana. Kasa de arsana is the aniyim, or you ochlim it? Okay, that's what I'm saying. Today, people have joy out of it. But in the time of the Talmud, in the time of the Tur, which is 1,000 years ago, there was aniyut. Okay? So he asked his father, can I eat sardines? Or it's better to have alva, to go to the bank, lend money, right? So he told him, "Aseh Shabbatcha chol va'al titzrech laberiyot." It's better to eat sardines and don't go ask money, don't go borrow money or lend money from somebody. Aseh Shabbatcha chol, right? En lo, he doesn't have. So if you don't have, you don't have to, right? You honor Shabbat on your level. So what's honoring the Shabbat? Sitting by the table, singing Zemirot. One of the Gedolim, he said, well, we cannot say his name because he was a very big Gadol, he's Niftar. He said, the reason his children did not follow his footsteps, because he didn't honor the Shabbat enough. I'd ask him, what do you mean? He says he was in a rush always to finish the meal of Shabbat to go learn. Talmud Torah keneged kulam, right? But he said, no. Because by Shabbat, you're supposed to sit by the table, sing, Dvar Torah, Zmirot. You're supposed to honor the Shabbat. Yeah, learning is very important, right? But Shulchan Shabbat is also very important. Sitting around the table on Shabbat, singing Zemirot, honoring. This is Chelek Mea. So that's why Hasidim, they have what's called the Tish. They go to the Rebbe, and if you see the Tish, everything is Malchut. Everything is silver, everything asum mikesef, everything is made out of silver, right? Silver plates, silver forks and knives, big fish, big chicken, big soup, everything served with cups, akol, malchut. Shabbat, ismechu b'malchutcha, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg, right? That's what. So this is our dedication. So I saw once a maaseh. I'm going to say it over probably tonight over there, but it's good to I can say it over here also. It's so maaseh. There's one time there was a Rav. He was speaking about Kedushat Shabbat. He was speaking about the importance of Shabbat, and he said, in the olden days, like 300 years ago, 400 years ago, there was no kimat. You wouldn't find Mechalel Shabbat. You wouldn't find somebody. I saw Rabbi Chaim Palaji said that in Izmir, in Turkey, 70 years ago, 80 years ago, he says, "Umuchal lishaver al sefer Torah." He's willing to swear in the Torah, and afilu mechalel Shabbat echad ba'ir.
Wow.
En davar kaze. There's no mechalel Shabbat. He said, 70 years ago, 80 years ago.
כן? כולם יודעים לו?
בעיר שלו, בגטו שלו, in his ghetto, there was no mechalel Shabbat. In the city where the Jews lived, there was no mechalel Shabbat. Okay? ככה הוא נשבע. הוא אמר, "מוכן להישבע על ספר תורה." So 300 years ago, for the time of Baal Shem Tov and everything, there was no Mechalel Shabbat, right? So one time there was this Rav, he was speaking about the time of the Chafetz Chaim, 100 years ago. And he says, 100 years ago, when the reform, Askala, in Germany and everything started, unfortunately some Jews started to smoke on Shabbat. Some people started to smoke on Shabbat. So one time, they came to the Chafetz Chaim and they told him that in his yeshiva, there was a boy, they caught him smoking on Shabbat. On Shabbat, they caught him smoking. The Chafetz Chaim was shocked. So he told them, "I want to call the boy to my office. I want to speak with him." Okay? And that's it. He spoke with the boy and everything. No one knows what happened there. אף אחד לא יודע מה הוא אמר לו, what did he tell to him, but they say the boy עשה תשובה. The boy made תשובה. Okay, בסדר. So this rabbi was speaking about Shabbat. Yes, he said the story and everything. And after an hour, the whole drasha was finished. Everybody's going home. So the rabbi stayed there. People stay, ask questions, everything. The rabbi stayed last. As he's about to leave the room, he sees an old man, he's all curved up like this in his chair. So he says, "Oh, old man, probably he fell asleep, poor guy. And he didn't even realize everybody left already. I'm not going to leave him here." He goes over, he sits next to the man, and he see he's crying. He's not sleeping. He's like this, he's curved up, but he's crying. So he taps on his back, he says, "Excuse me, can I help you? Have a problem? Maybe I can help him." He says, I want to tell you something. I stayed last. I want to tell you something. He says, "What?" He says, "You, in the drasha, you spoke about the Chafetz Chaim with the boy that smoked on Shabbat." And he says, "Yeah." He told him he's the boy. He told him he's the boy. He was a very old man. He says he's the boy. He says, "Wow." He says, "But no one knows what he told you." He says, "I want to tell you what he told me, the Chafetz Chaim. And I did tshuva ala makom, on the spot I did tshuva." He says, "Ma amar lecha? What did Chafetz Chaim tell you?" He says, "He didn't say nothing. I came in, he told me to sit down, he took my hand, and he started rubbing my hand. He said, 'Shabbos, Shabbos.' And he started to cry. The Chafetz Chaim started to cry. 'Shabbos, Shabbos, mechata, Shabbos, Shabbos.' He said he was crying for 20 minutes. I started to cry with him. He says, I couldn't stand, my heart broke. He says, I did tshuva on the spot. זה היה המוסר של החפץ חיים. Okay? He says, what people sometimes, they scream, Shabbos, Shabbos. Okay? They say, the Chafetz Chaim, he went on the street once, Walach Barchov, he went on the street once, and he saw somebody's Mechayel Shabbat, and he started to say, lo, Shabbos, Shabbos, Shabbos. So there was Talmidim with him. Rabbeinu, why do you say Shabbos kacha quietly? If you want to say Shabbos, scream, Shabbos, Shabbos. If you don't have to say scream, don't say nothing. He says, no, I'm not saying for him. I'm not saying for the Mechalel Shabbat, Shabbos. I'm saying for myself. Shelo yashpi' alai. I don't want to get influenced by the Chilul Shabbat. Right? So Shabbat, sometimes you go on the street, you see Jews, Torit ha'inayim, don't look, right? Shelo yashpi' alecha. You have to keep Kedoshim to you. You have to keep Kedoshat Shabbat. So that's what the Chafetz Chaim. It's not all about Chafetz Chaim. You know, he couldn't stand that the Jew doesn't keep Shabbos, right? Today, what we say, Bezrat Hashem yachzor b'tshuva, but we don't feel like we have to feel it. Shabbat, it's a kadosh, and we should not look. If you see an avera, in Sefer Hasidim, Rabbi Yehuda Chassid says, if you see somebody doing avera, put down your eyes. Don't look. זה יכול להשפיע עליך. It could influence you. Because then you can say, oh, okay, no. זה משפיע על הנפש. It influences your soul. So he says, and this is Kedoshim-The. Kedoshim-The, קדש עצמך, אומר הרמב"ן, במותר לך. Right? What does it mean במותר לך? Things that, listen, you can wear regular shoes on Shabbat. You could. You can wear a regular shirt on Shabbat. You could. You can eat maybe something looks like bread. You could. אבל קדש, do קידוש. קדש את עצמך, במותר לך. Even things מותר, קדש את עצמך. So to tell you, if we want to feel the Shabbat, if you really want to feel Oneg Shabbat, the more you invest, this is how much you're going to feel. Right? And it's not for you. כל הסביבה, everything around you is going to be קדושת השבת. To tell רבותיי, so if the Torah brings down this thing, and what's the כוח השבת? There's a פלא דקי מדרש, יש מדרש פלא. מדרש אומר ככה, when משה רבנו came down with the לוחות הברית, with the two tablets, it says, למה שבר את הלוחות? There's two versions. One version says he broke the לוחות because he couldn't stand the עגל הזהב. What? I went to bring you the Torah 40 days, לא אכל, לא שתה, you're doing it, שיבר בכעס. והקדוש ברוך הוא אומר לו, ישר כוחך ששיברת, yeah. The other version in the Midrash is that when the Luchot saw the עגל הזהב, פרחו האותיות, the letters started to fly in the air. So מילא מה נשאר? לוחות אבן. Imagine how thick it was. It was very thick, very big. So it was heavy. So ishlich means he couldn't hold them anymore. What was holding the luchot? The otiyot, the letters. So Moshe Rabbeinu put his hand, but it was light. Okay? When the luchot saw the עגל הזהב, the otiyot parchu, and then he had no choice to break it. But אומר המדרש דבר יפה. כל האותיות פרחו, all the letters flew up. There is one dibra. There is one commandment stayed in place. איזה? זכור את יום השבת לקדשו. זכור את יום השבת לקדשו didn't fly in the air. Stayed right there. Right? Oh, so they say, מכאן, we learn that what we say, שומר שבת מחללו. מה זה מחלל? אם הוא שומר שבת, if he keeps שבת, how is מחללו? How is he profaning the Shabbat? No. אל תקרא מחללו. מחול? לא. הקדוש ברוך הוא forgives him. But if you שומר שבת, why מחול לו? לא. אפילו בן אדם, even a person, עבד עבודה זרה כדור אנוש, even if he practiced עבודה זרה כדור אנוש, which invented the idea עבודה זרה, מחול לו. Keeping שבת, מחול לו. So בן אדם עובד עבודה זרה, אבל עושה שבת. מחול לו. Why? So why? איך זה עובד? Because Shabbat was standing against the עגל הזהב. The only thing that could stand against עגל הזהב is Shabbat. לכן כל השומר שבת, that's what it's trying to show us. כל השומר את השבת, מחול לו. And the עגל הזהב cannot affect the קדושה of this Shabbat. So to tell you, Shabbat is so holy, so high, that overcomes even עבודה זרה. So to tell you that Hashem, this is what our job, for ourselves, for our surrounding, for our community, for Am Yisrael, the more you mekadesh the Shabbat, Kedoshim-The. This is the Kedusha you're going to get, and you're going to influence everybody all around you. Baruch Adonai La'olam. Amen. Amen.